Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Major Hype. I'm your host, Maxwell, and welcome to my daily show where I drop new content every single day, Monday through Friday, talking everything entrepreneurship, real estate, and money. Today, we got a lot of topics to cover, so let's get right to it. But please don't forget to subscribe and turn the notifications on so you know when I'm dropping new content. All right, y'all, it's about time. Lumber prices have been chopped in half since they went bonkers during the recession. So I did this crazy thing and I started to build my house as soon as the recession started. Now, I didn't know the recession was coming, but I was determined not to stop and keep going. But when I put my quote in for my lumber package, it was around $25,000. By the time I picked up my lumber a few months later, it was at $43,000. Absolutely insane, almost 100% hike, and now the prices are going back down. For the life of me, I could not understand why prices immediately went up when COVID was announced, but it was simply just the supply and demand. The lumber companies really didn't predict the big demand for lumber. If you think about it, everybody was sitting at home in the beginning of the recession. People that had jobs and didn't really affect them that much, they started doing these honey-do projects where they were adding on a deck, building a new office onto their houses. So lumber demand kept creeping, but through all these other restrictions they had in the workplace, the work production went down, and we felt that in our pockets severely. And if you ask any builder right now, the build prices are up 20-30%, only because lumber is probably one of the most used materials in a build, and bills went crazy. So that's why the home prices went up crazy, especially in the new builds, because it just costs much more to build. And let's not even talk about the labor prices. But lumber prices are finally went down. So how they measure lumber on the commodities is, I think it's 1,000 board feet. And so right now it's at $600, which is not really pre-pandemic levels yet. But if you ask any contractors, the OBS board are still high. It's funny how immediately when something happens, the prices shoot up, but as it goes away, it takes a long time for those prices to get back to normal, which I don't think we'll ever see a normal price. But hopefully prices go down, because we are 4 million houses short. We talk about this all the time. We're 4 million plus houses short in the economy, and we really need the prices to build these houses to go down so things are a little bit more affordable. Because this right here is just the absolute perfect storm when it comes to the economy right now. And really nobody could have predicted or explained what's really happening. It's just everything is lining up, and it's not lining up in our favor for a lot of things. So yes, lumber prices are going down. I hope you guys take advantage of that. Thank you for going down. I am so sick and tired. See these bills I have to pay, and the lumber prices are jacked up. So thank you, lumber's going down. Hopefully it keeps going down, and the demand and the supply has finally met, and we got a good price going. All right, do you guys remember those stimmies? Yeah, the stimmy checks that everybody was getting. I didn't get qualified for the $1,400, but everybody was getting those stimmy checks. Now check this out. During this whole stimulation, when the government was printing money like crazy, they was inserting money into everyday citizens' pockets. Businesses were getting loans. Businesses were getting forgivable loans. What happened was the economy decided to do something pretty good that I was fairly proud of. During the pandemic, credit card debt was paid down $83 billion. $83 billion. But right now, it's on the rise again, and that has to do with inflation, because things just cost more. Cars cost more, gas costs more, all these things cost more. So people are now starting to stack those credit card debts back up. And right now, credit card balances jumped nearly 20% from April, from the previous month, to $1.13 trillion, breaking a pre-pandemic of $1.1 trillion. It is absolutely crazy. So we're at 1.13 when we're at 1.1, which is a pre-pandemic record, and now we're going higher. Listen, we really need to be careful when we are spending money on our credit cards, right? Because right now, the average credit card interest rate is 16%. And so this is where you just need to be living below your means and kind of making things happen. But right now, Americans are spending money. Now, this is a good thing if you think about it in the overall picture of everything as far as Americans spending money, because consumer confidence is a big part of us going in or out of a recession. If consumer confidence is down and these people don't feel like they can pay these credit cards, it's not good. They will not spend money. So it's like a give and a take all the time. But We are at record highs right now at $1.13 trillion of credit card debt. Somebody do the math on that, because if you're collecting 16% on $1.13 trillion, that is why you see the banks making a ton of money. And they're not paying you 16% when you're leaving the money in the bank at savings. So think about that. We got to do a little bit better. Let's stop being so impulsive when it comes to buying things and wanting instant gratification. Remember, we talked about the last show, Apple's now even breaking up payments in Ford, which is the same thing. So they're getting on that train, that gravy train of splitting these payments up and making people pay over time. So be careful. Please be careful when it comes to using your credit cards. If you have been watching any type of Instagram or TikTok or news from anywhere, you can see that the housing market is starting to slow down. Is it a bad thing? It depends who you ask and who you talk to. Remember, housing costs rose between 25 and 30% in the last 2 years, which is unbelievably unsustainable. We cannot keep that rate going, because we're just going to price ourselves way out of the market, and home affordability is just going to smash itself. So things are slowly starting to come back down, meaning, like I said before, we used to flip houses. They would be sold in 24 hours for at least asking price. And now things are starting to slow down pretty quickly. And I think that's not really a bad thing. We had a good time. So if you think about it, the economists from Freddie Mac are saying, listen, we're in the most significant contraction ever since 2006, meaning that the prices are starting to go down. It's like the complete opposite of what's been happening. And what we got to think about on the other side of that storyline is we went up so fast that, of course, you're going to start to come down. I think there's going to be maybe a 10 to 15% correction on home prices, especially in certain markets, because it just grew too fast. And that's why I kind of like living in the middle part, where it's never too high or never too low. It's kind of just rises up and down with everything else. But we don't live in a Phoenix. We don't live in a Charlotte where the prices just jack up immediately as soon as a news headline comes out. And so this makes me want to talk about a recession. You've been hearing this word all the time. It's like a buzzword for YouTube videos, a buzzword for any people that's doing Instagram videos and TikTok videos. And most people don't really know what a recession is. But, and even economists don't even really agree on a definition of exactly what it is. But I'll read to you exactly what it says from the dictionary. A recession is a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a falling GDP in 2 consecutive quarters. So basically, if our gross domestic product goes down for 6 months straight, 2 quarters, then that means we're technically in a recession. Now, we've been through a lot of recessions that haven't had headlines throughout the world. Now, America has been on a boom for the last decade. Our economy has been growing and growing and growing, only because on the other side of the story, like I talked about before, we went way down from 2008. I mean, almost overnight, it just crashed because there was so much fraud and everything going on. So now I want to give you some 3 key things to look out for so you can kind of identify a recession, and key parts to identify a recession. Number 1 is interest rates, and interest rates are on a rise. Now, as a real estate investor, I can remember saying this a couple years ago, even a year and a half ago, 18 months ago, that, hey, listen, the money's on the streets. Everybody's got money. Money is so cheap. The reason why money was so cheap and it started leaving out of the bond market, and bond market is essentially where you lend the government money because it seems it's traditionally known to be safe, right? And it coincides with the actual interest rates that the government sets. So people took their money out of the bonds and they started putting it to work in a very active economy. We were buying and trading everything at tremendous speeds and a tremendous amount. And money just became cheaper because they couldn't go out and get these bond markets. Bond markets are made up of trillions of dollars, tons of money, right? So high interest rates is one key indicator to look at. Also, consumer confidence. Consumer confidence really depends on what people really, you and I, the everyday people, what we think of where the economy is going. Is the job market good, right? Are companies paying, wages are starting to go up? Are people hiring? All of these things boils into consumer confidence. And then inflation. Well, I hate to tell you, inflation has been at an all-time high at over 8%. So these things are things you really need to look at right now. Now, here's things that I personally think. Right now, interest rates are high. Inflation is at an all-time high. Right now, consumer confidence is pretty good. Now, if that starts to slip, then you'll start to see that we start to spend less money because we're not sure that we're going to have that job to keep paying for the things that we wanted to buy. And it's just really, it's difficult. I mean, if you look at the interest rates, let's talk about the interest rates and the monthly mortgage payments across the country. So in Las Vegas last year, your monthly mortgage payments for the average house was around $1,355. Right now, it's at almost $1,900. That's a 40% change. So a 40% change is happening in Las Vegas, Tampa, Raleigh, Jacksonville, Orlando, Austin. Very close at 38% is Dallas, Charlotte. So a lot of these places, what happens is basically the interest rates are tied to what you're going to have to, how much interest you're going to have to pay back on that mortgage. And that mortgage, basically, the interest rate prices you in or out of affordability. At one moment, you could be looking at buying an $800,000 house. And if the interest rates go up, you could be looking at a $600,000 house. And if the interest rates keep going up, then maybe you'd be priced at a $450,000, $500,000. So now with the house prices going so high, you see where I'm going here? So the buzzword recession really has a lot to do with a conglomerate of things, a bunch of things put together for making us. But the true definition is that we got to have 2 quarters of declining GDP in order to be technically in a recession. But my opinion is we will not enter into what a 2008 bloodbath was. It just won't happen because there was a lot of fraud. There was a lot of loans that people just didn't have the ability to repay. And they were just basically giving out bad loans. And I think that because of everything that they put in place with the Dodd-Frank and all these other things that they put in place, and plus just smarter Americans, we're just a little bit smarter now because we went through that. I don't think we're going to see that type of recession. There will be a correction and even a recession is coming, but it won't be what fear-mongering people are talking about, at least in my opinion. If you're comparing it to 2008, it just won't happen like that. Something's gonna happen. You can take advantage of it. And if you do, kudos to you. If not, you need to prepare yourself so that your family doesn't suffer through this or anything like that. But you just need to really just start living below your means, preparing for this. And if you do that and live below your means all the time, the recession won't really matter to you. With everything going on in Russia and Ukraine, a lot of Western corporations have decided to cease all business inside of Russia. One of those companies is McDonald's. Now, you're probably thinking, why are we talking about McDonald's on this show right here, Major Hype? Well, McDonald's to everybody is mainly known as a company that sells hamburgers and French fries. Well, they're actually one of the largest landowners in the country, in the nation, actually in the world. Not only they own some of the biggest real estate, but some of the best real estate property across the world. They had 847 locations in Russia. And they decided to leave Russia. And what do you do with all those locations? They decided to sell it to one guy named Alexander Govar. And Govar owns 25 of those as franchises already. And here's a cool thing about McDonald's operating in Russia. They're all corporate ran stores, not like franchises here in America. So what do? They decided to sell every single one of him. And here's the caveat. He has to keep every single employee, even a lot of the top level executives that were over there in Russia, for at least 2 years while he rebrands into a new brand called Tasty, and that's it. I will never try to pronounce the Russian version of that word because I will screw that up. So Tasty and that it is going to replace McDonald's in Russia, and McDonald's sold their entire portfolio to this guy. And first of all, I don't know how he affords it, and because that's got to be a lot of money for one guy. They never released the amount of money that this deal went through for, and it's probably none of our business, but I'd be interested. I would want to know what it's like buying 847 locations of McDonald's. Anyways, the company lost $127 million in the first quarter, and they just said that's it. So they left town, and this guy, Alexander, gets to sweep these up in a fire sale deal, I'm assuming, but he has to keep a lot of the employees on for 2 years. So, I mean, this is pretty interesting. But here's my idea. If you just hand somebody that already had 25 corporations, 25 of these franchises, he knows the ins and outs and the operations of everything, he just gets to rebrand it to Tasty. I think in the future, depending on what happens with Russia, that they're just going to be able to become one of the biggest franchises probably on that side of the world. Maybe even be able to move into other European places. But I'm just thinking that's a lot of footprint for a franchise overnight to turn. They opened up a dozen stores last Sunday, and they're ready to rock and roll. So let's keep an eye on this to see, and maybe more details about the deal will come out, because McDonald's may have pulled out, but I got a feeling that they lost so much money, they probably got to be a part of this operation in some way without their brand ever being on it. Okay, let's move on to talk about some more money. There's a guy named Neil Patel. He is a marketer, owns an agency, and is worth roughly around $30 million, $35 million. He was on a podcast that I watched called My First Million. And I watch it here and now, every now and then. I really listen to it as I'm driving. And the conversation came up was, how much money do you spend every month? And he said between $120,000 to $180,000 a month. Now, some people may think that's ridiculous. Some people may think that's reasonable, but he breaks down exactly how he spends his money. He says he does not have a mortgage. Now, a lot of people thought I was absolutely crazy when I built my house and I got no mortgage on it and I don't have that monthly payment. All I got to do is pay the taxes in a place that really doesn't have taxes. But he says he spends that money on property taxes and HOA dues, which is around $200,000 a year. He also says he spends $25,000 a month on life insurance. And I was like, $25,000 a month on life insurance. And so what he has is a whole life policy that he can stuff money in there. It never goes away. It doesn't lapse after 10 years. And basically, if he dies, his family gets money. But he also can borrow against us at any time at a very, very decent interest rate without having to pay taxes, probably, obviously, because it's borrowed money. But he does more. He breaks down his lifestyle and talks about how he has a staff of cleaners, nannies, and drivers, costing him about $57,000 a month. He also uses a car service, pretty exclusive car service in Vegas that allows him to be where he gets where he needs to be as far as pulling up in front of a hotel. And because they have some type of special decal and probably some rights with the city, they can park the car wherever. But it's an interesting clip. And I only want to bring this topic up because I want to know, how would you spend your money if you're worth $35 million? Comment below, because I want to know if that's ridiculous or reasonable. I won't talk about how much money I spend every single month, but I try to live pretty small. You know, I don't have extravagant things. I do like to travel, but I'm curious. If you're a millionaire, if you're a multimillionaire, maybe comment below how you spend your money. And if you're not a multimillionaire or millionaire yet, tell me, how would you spend your money below in the comments? Because I'll be interested in this just to see, how would you spend? Would you spend $180,000 a month on life expenses? And he says he writes none of this off to the company. So that's another interesting thing. Very, very interesting. If you've watched this show for any amount of time, you know I keep bringing up this number, 4 million. Because that's what they say, how many homes are actually short from the demand. Now, what do I mean by that? There's 4 million people or households that are looking for houses that can't have them, whether they're either renting right now or they simply can't find that house they need. You got to think about this. In the last 12 years, we really haven't built any homes. We completely stopped building homes. And now if you drive around, you see these trends of all these houses being built. Well, I don't think we're going to be able to keep up with the pace. Now, here's the problem. COVID happened. Logistical issues happened with products. Lumber prices went through the roof. It was hard to find competitive wages. It was hard to pay competitive wages to find contractors because everybody was so busy. So we really can't build fast enough. That's one problem. But here's another problem that most people never talk about. In the last 5-6 years, single family residence has become a very lucrative and attractive asset class for hedge funds, Wall Street, and other publicly traded companies. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you're a flipper, an investor, you know that it is very attractive right now for these hedge funds that don't have to go to the banks and worry about interest loans or interest payments. They are buying up single family homes faster than we can even build them, right? So in the price ranges between, $100,000 and $500,000, they're buying every single thing they possibly can because their bet is, and I talked about this in a previous show, their bet is that they can rent these properties out because everybody likes to be in a single family house. Previously, these type of investors love to buy apartment complexes. Between when COVID happened and a lot of people wanted to move out of their apartment complexes because they just wanted to put their feet in grass and didn't have any because everybody had to stay at least 6 feet apart and we were scared to death. That right there made people move to the outskirts of a lot of things and made people say, I'm going to go get my own little front yard or backyard. So the demand for houses increased so much, and that's why the prices went up so much. But there's a big section of houses. There's a big section of real estate that we're not talking that's disappearing from the market and probably will not return to the market anytime soon. These hedge funds are buying a lot of real estate. There's nothing you can do to stop them. HOAs have tried to put in laws and covenants. Cities have tried to put in some type of laws to say that investors can't, but it's almost impossible. So what do we do to fix that problem? What do we do? How do we build fast enough? How do we fix our logistical supply chain right now, which is completely in shambles, so that we can supply regular mom and pop or regular people, regular families, so that they can have houses? Because if you're building houses anywhere between up to $500,000, it's a very good chance that a hedge fund will make you an offer and not an actual family. Because family, with the interest rates are going up, think about this. Interest rates are going up. Mortgage applications are down 50%. Refinances are down 75% right now. The person that doesn't have to worry about the interest rate is the person that has billions of dollars to spend. Hedge funds, publicly traded companies, other private family offices. These people are going to be buying this real estate and turning people into renters. Rent is beyond crazy right now. Rent is not like it was in 2008, where they were giving away, free cable, internet, 2 months free. No, rent is high, just as high as home prices. So it's a very stable market when it comes to that type of investment. So my question is, what will we do to actually increase the supply of houses, because we can't build them fast enough as it is? And then you have this added equation where we can't build them faster than the hedge funds are buying them. I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can let me know in the comments. All right, on to my next topic, which is purely an opinion piece, and it's probably going to get me in a lot of trouble. I'm going to get attacked in the comments. People are going to unsubscribe, but I'm just telling you how I see it from myself and what I've been because I really watch and read and study what's been going on for a long time. And my question is, what do real estate agents really do these days? And do we really need them? And I say that because the internet has really democratized or decentralized all of that private information that we used to get or used to cannot get. And so the key thing between real estate agents, and I really talk about realtors that held people, and let me just be clear, there is a difference between a real estate agent and a realtor, in the sense that you can be a real estate agent and not be a realtor. A realtor is a private association, right? And for a long time, they had this thing called the MLS that you had to be a member in order to get access to, right? So I was curious and I was thinking, you know what? Because in a few years, I want to sell the house that I'm actually in. And I'm starting to look at buying other property on 100 acres so I can put, my plane in the back and runway and take off and stuff like that. But here's what I'm thinking. If I was to sell my house today for roughly around $1.3 million, I would have to pay around $80,000 in real estate commission. Now you're thinking, Max, it's $1.3 million. Of course you got to pay 80. I can't see where $80,000 is worth filling out the paper and bringing the buyer and seller together. I'm going to tell you why. I built this house. I picked out the finishes. I spent the money. I designed everything. And somebody's going to put my house on the internet. Somebody else is looking for a house, and they're going to come show me the house. A buyer's agent didn't sell my house. They opened the door and let the person see the house that I built. And for that, I owe that person $40,000. I have a hard time getting around to that. So my thing is, what do real estate agents really do? So I wanted to find out. So I went to the National Association of Realtors website and really read what they said buyer's agents should do. They said they should provide you with information detailing the current market conditions. The internet. Help you with financial information of how much of a house you can afford. The internet. That's when you go to like Bankrate, or you still have to go to a mortgage broker, submit all your information, and the mortgage broker actually tells you how much money or house you can actually afford. I don't even know if they really, agents really do that. Guide you through the home purchasing process, including getting finance and what information you'll need to provide. The internet. As far as you pick up the phone, you call a mortgage broker that everybody else, your friends and family has used, they're going to tell you what information you need to provide them to get qualified and see how much of a loan you can actually get. So they also say that they can help you understand the real estate value, taxes, utility costs, municipal service facilities, local zoning ordinances. Now remember, this is a buyer's agent. Zillow tells you all of that. Research homes using the tools like the MLS. You mean signing my email up and setting alerts so that I get houses that fit my criteria automatically through software? I'm not bitter. I'm just saying with the new age of the internet, it's very hard to find out why you really need a licensed real estate agent. Now, in my opinion, 95 to 98% of agents are crap. There's a roughly 5 or 2% of these people that really know what they're talking about and really can help you, especially if you want to pay for that service. Like if you're just a busy person and you don't want to deal with all this other stuff, yeah, pay for it. Let's move on to what they say sellers agents do. Now, you guys, please don't beat me up in the comments. I'm only reading what they say they do, and I'm comparing it to what is actually done. I deal with agents all the time. My right-hand man, Francis, is a licensed agent. I love him to death. And he actually is one of those 2 to 5% people that really get into the dirt. If you're selling a home, here's what real estate agents are supposed to do for you. This is according to the National Association of Realtors website. Provide you with up-to-date information on the market, determine a reasonable asking price. Here's my thing. With getting an asking price and getting what you're going to sell for is two different things. And most of the time, agents back in the days would do this thing. They would say they can sell your house for one amount and then it will be lower than that. And the reality is if anybody that's buying your house, the bank requires them to get an appraisal. Could be between $300 and $600. So the reality is $300 to $600 can get you a true appraisal to know what the bank is actually going to value your house at to begin with. They show you the terms and the conditions of competing properties. Zillow, the internet. Develop a marketing plan that could include suggestion repairs, open houses, and advertising. Now, I will say the best agents possible are the ones that actually know how to do marketing. That's what you really should be getting an agent for, ones who are on top of the game when it comes to marketing. But this day and age, listen, I used to be a realtor back in 2004, I believe, or late 2004. Even back then, a statistic that never left my mind is that 78% of real estate of people started shopping for houses online. So all this information's online as far as what the prices should be. Anyways, they provide security for your home when it's being shown to strangers. That's true. Negotiate the best price for your homes. I don't know. Monitor the sale prices and negotiate as needed. Now, like I said, I'm reading it directly from the National Association of Realtors, but I personally don't believe that there's much difference between filling out the paperwork for a $2 million house or a $200,000 house. Now, there's a huge difference in commissions, but there's not much difference when it comes to actually doing the paperwork. Somebody who is really important in this entire thing is the real estate attorney who closes the deal or an escrow company that you guys have, and the transaction coordinator who actually works for the real estate attorney. Most of the time, when you get your house under contract and you're buying a house, you start to communicate with the closing office and you rarely get to hear from your agent. And when you talk to your agent, they call you back because they got to call the transaction coordinator who's going to relay the message back to you. So I know I'm going to get beat up in the comments. I know people are going to say, well, this or that, but I truly want to hear what you guys have to say. But do you think we need real estate agents? And what do real estate agents really do that the internet has not decentralized now? You tell me. I appreciate you guys tuning into this episode of Major Hype. I'm here every single day, Monday through Friday, dropping new episodes. And do me a favor, like this, subscribe to the show, turn the notifications on, and share this video with a friend. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.